Home Assistant is a free platform, but there is an optional paid add-on called Home Assistant Cloud, otherwise known as Nabu Casa. In this video, I'll break down the two main benefits of using this add-on, how you might get those features for free, and whether or not it's worth paying for anyway. The first big feature is remote access, because by default, you can only control devices inside of Home Assistant when connected to your home network, which means as soon as you leave your house and your phone switches over to mobile data or even another Wi-Fi network, you won't be able to communicate with your devices and control your home, at least until you return home later. And this can be a problem if you often forget to turn things on, or maybe you have pets at home and you're running late and you need to put on a light, or maybe you just want to get the AC nice and crispy on your way home from work. With Home Assistant Cloud, you get given an external link that allows you to access your Home Assistant over the internet from anywhere. And if you use the Home Assistant companion app, you can actually set it up to recognize when you leave the house and automatically switch over to that remote connection, which means you only use it when absolutely necessary and you still benefit from local, snappy control when you're at home. But you can get remote access without paying for Home Assistant Cloud. Traditionally, you would set up port forwarding on your router, which basically puts your Home Assistant instance over the internet. But not all routers and internet service providers allow you to use port forwarding, and even if they do, they might charge you an ongoing fee. It also involves digging into your router configuration, which you may not be familiar or comfortable with, and it usually calls for other Home Assistant add-ons to make it work safely and reliably. Fortunately, these days we have other methods available, a popular one being the Tailscale add-on. Tailscale is a VPN which essentially tricks Home Assistant into thinking you're accessing it locally from your home. While this can be done with other VPNs, Tailscale is a popular choice in the Home Assistant community because it's very easy to set up, it doesn't require port forwarding, and the free plan is more than enough for Home Assistant. This is actually my preferred method. The only downside is you need to have the Tailscale app open and enabled before you can remotely access your Home Assistant. You can just leave it running in the background, but if you're having to turn it on and off all the time, this can be a little bit annoying, but it's a minor inconvenience, and the Tailscale app is available on all major platforms. Another widely used method is to use the Cloudflare add-on, which leverages something called tunneling. It's similar to using a VPN, except tunneling works on the Home Assistant level rather than on your connection as a whole. But I might be oversimplifying it a little bit there. This difference means you can access Home Assistant remotely without using an app, and instead just go through the web browser on any device that has one. Like Tailscale, this method doesn't require any port forwarding, but it is a bit more complicated to set up. And while it is cheap, it isn't technically free because you have to buy and continuously renew a domain name for this method to work. It also requires some additional steps to make it more secure, so it's not quite as approachable as the Tailscale method, but it's still a very popular option for more experienced users. Okay, the next big feature is the ability to use third-party voice assistants, specifically Alexa and Google Assistant. Siri is a different story, but I'll touch on that in a moment. So if you have a bunch of Amazon Echoes or Google Nest throughout your home, this allows you to give instructions using your voice, and it will control the relevant device inside of Home Assistant. This is great if you need to quickly turn on or off a device, or really do anything outside of a scheduled automation. Now, Home Assistant does have its own voice assistant called Assist. It's free and it runs locally, but it's still a relatively new feature. It's quite rigid in how it processes speech, and it has some other limitations that I won't go into in this video. Overall, it's safe to say most people prefer to integrate with third-party voice assistants, and Home Assistant Cloud couldn't make this easier. It adds a simple toggle to each device inside of Home Assistant, so you can expose whatever you want to Alexa or Google Home. Now, if you want to do all of this without paying a subscription, it is a bit more complicated, but you do have some options. Starting with Alexa, the simplest workaround is to use something called emulated hue. This isn't an add-on, it's actually built into Home Assistant, and it makes your devices appear as Philips Hue devices to Alexa. This isn't a perfect solution by any means because your devices will appear as bulbs or switches, which limits how they can be controlled to a certain degree. But it's certainly the lowest effort to set up. You just copy and paste some code, make a few tweaks, and generally you're good to go. If that doesn't work for you, another method is to use Node-RED with the Alexa integration. This allows you to build a kind of flowchart to connect different commands with different devices. It's definitely a step up in complexity from emulated Hue, but I found it to be a lot less limiting and a lot more reliable in the long run. I'll be making videos on both of these methods, so make sure you subscribe for that. Another popular workaround is to create an Amazon developer account and then create your own Alexa skill. In my opinion, this is the most complicated solution, and while it is very doable following a guide, it does get pretty technical and it's not where I would recommend most people start. Next, for Google Assistant, there is a manual integration you can use, but it does involve following a lot of technical steps and isn't too dissimilar to the developer account method I just talked about with Alexa. Unfortunately, as far as I know, there aren't any other workarounds for Google Assistant, so if you're not willing to pay for Home Assistant Cloud, this is pretty much your only option. Finally, for Siri, the situation is a bit different because Home Assistant Cloud doesn't actually include an integration for Siri.
If you think it could be serious, ask me to call emergency services or someone you trust.
I assume this is because Siri works through HomeKit and HomeKit is a local centric platform, so it doesn't really make sense to go through the cloud. The good news is Home Assistant has a free HomeKit integration that's very easy to set up and does all the heavy lifting for you. Not only giving you access to Siri, but also remote access via the HomeKit app, assuming you have a HomeKit hub. So there's definitely a different argument to be made for Home Assistant users who are deep in the Apple ecosystem. So with all of that said, is Home Assistant Cloud worth paying for? The simple answer is if you want remote access or third-party voice control, you don't have the time to hack it together yourself, and you can afford the subscription cost, then Home Assistant Cloud is absolutely worth paying for. However, if you don't need one or either of those features, you have more time than money, or if you just enjoy a good challenge, then you can absolutely get by without paying for Home Assistant Cloud. But even then, features aside, if you can afford to pay a subscription, there is one thing I haven't touched on, and that is how the money supports the project. A subscription to Nabu Casa is the best way to support Home Assistant, to keep it free of ads, and to contribute to the growth and development of the platform, which ultimately benefits the community as a whole. It also has a 30-day free trial, so you can give it a spin and see if it benefits you, and I think that's a good place to leave it. Check out my other videos on Home Assistant, they'll be on screen now, and I have a lot more of this content planned, so don't forget to subscribe and I will see you in the next one.